Welcome to Who is Grace Weekly, Grace Church's weekly podcast. My name is John Tiernan, and I'm excited to be your host as we discuss the I Am Jesus sermon series. Our mission here at Grace is to make and be fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. We hope these conversations encourage you to live out that mission in your everyday life. Today, I'll be doing a deeper dive with Pastor Derek about his message from Sunday, including some bonus content that didn't make it to his sermon that he's excited to tell you about. We'll also talk about why religions aren't all the same and how to handle our doubts. We would love for you to share this podcast with others and to like and subscribe so you get notifications for every episode each week. Let's jump into my conversation with Pastor Derek. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 of our weekly podcast. I'm here with Pastor Derek, and we're both so excited to have you joining us for this conversation. Pastor T, you want to say hi?
Hey, what's up everybody? Good to be here, John.
Yeah, good to have you, man.
Thanks.
Crazy to think that this is actually the last of this series. We're going to take a little break after this, so we hope you subscribed so you get notifications when we jump back in. But man, crazy that we're already to the end of another amazing series. Yeah. So before we talk about your message from Sunday and more on that, tell me a little bit about fam time. What's something fun you've been doing with your family recently?
All right, so here's one. Kim and I don't always agree on television and movies, what to watch. Okay, we have different tastes a little bit, but we found a show that we both like, and this is a big victory for us. So we're watching a show on Netflix called Madam Secretary.
Okay,
and the thing that I like political shows like this that have good like plot lines and storylines. I'm an old West Wing guy. I don't know if you remember even that show. That might have been before your time.
Knew of it.
Okay,
didn't watch it. Knew of it.
Okay, so anyway, that was like one of my first entrees into like I really like that whole show, that whole series. So Madam Secretary is a political show. But Taya Leone is like the Secretary of State or whatever. But the thing that's so fascinating about it that I found that the reason that we like it is because it's one of the few shows that I feel like has kids our age. And so like a lot of the show, the humor, the insights and stuff like that are super relatable, and so like we're really drawn to it. Like we're kind of out of the stage of the super little kids,
yeah.
And so some of the families that have little kids, it feels a little bit unrelatable. It's interesting to me to think that like part of the appeal of a show would be you're kind of in the same life stage as some of the characters, and so there's this relatable comedy and all that kind of stuff.
That's fun. Yeah, so you're connecting to like as they're walking through parental moments.
Yeah,
you're like, hey, we know what this feels like.
Yeah, they got a kid out of the house to get married. They got a kid in college, and it's just it's interesting. So anyway, how about you? What's going on in your family life? And anything fun going on these days?
So I got Kristen, the best Christmas gift I've ever given her, a Sudoku book.
You are a math nerd,
but I bought
dude.
2. So that we could challenge each other in Sudoku. Now listen, we watch TV, like we do other stuff. We're not like totally lame, but we really enjoy doing like Sudoku races against each other.
So you can compete against each other and still stay married.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it creates healthy tension.
Wow. See, not
creates
for
healthy
us.
tension. Oh, it doesn't go well.
No.
Because if someone's the winner,
right,
that means someone has to lose.
We're way too competitive. We can't play games together. I mean, she like crushes me in Scrabble, but Kim was like a racquetball player her whole life, and I learned racquetball and then beat her at racquetball, and she has never picked up a racquetball racket again. Like she did it for like 6 years of her life, and it was just done. And so yeah, so I admire you. So Sudoku puzzles, and you race each other.
Yeah, I feel silly even saying that. Kristen's probably feeling a little either embarrassed or proud. I don't know. But I'll tell you, it's pretty fair. I'll just say that. So pretty fair. We each.
Hey, kudos to her because you're a math nerd. So that's
kudos to her.
You're right.
Sorry,
Dude,
couldn't pass that up.
All right.
Hey, let's talk about your sermon. Okay. Let's stop talking about how dorky I am.
Wait, I do want to get a serious moment in here because as we're taping this right now, we've actually had a pretty rough week at Grace Church with some families and some grief and some sudden grief. I just feel like there's a lot of people who've walked through grief in the last year, and this is something that, I mean, you are a godly shepherd, incredible pastor, and this is one of, I feel like, your areas of strength, even though you may not know it or feel like it in the moment. I would just love for you to talk a little bit about like how do you walk with people through grief, both from a pastor, like from a personal perspective, but also just recognizing that people that hear this also probably have to walk with people through grief, either have recently, are right now, or will sometime in the future.
Yeah. So this is still super fresh. So I apologize for the emotions, but I think that Oh my gosh. I think the first thing I'd probably say is you need to let yourself grieve, especially if it's close. Like this one has been the closest for me in a long time, and I needed to cry. And, sometimes that's with the family and sometimes that's alone, but you need to let yourself feel it. I think sometimes when we find ourselves in a support role, we think we have to be strong. There's going to come a breaking point. And so if you give yourself permission to feel that earlier and along the way when it comes up, I think that's actually going to set you up to be a better support and a more compassionate support to the people that you're walking that through, whether it's family members, friends, people in your life group. And then I find myself, like, one of the roles that I play is giving people permission to feel all the things, sadness, and to let that out and to say it's okay to feel really sad, and it's okay to let your family see you sad. I feel like that's one of my roles in supporting. It's just like letting them know it's okay. It's okay to not feel sad all the time. It's okay to still like laugh and be lighthearted in the midst of grief. That's okay. It's okay to be mad at God, and just giving people permission to like feel those things. And then being able to like go to God together in prayer when it makes sense, when they're ready, when it's, I think even just be mindful of that. It's never bad to pray, but sometimes that can feel
forced.
And just trying to judge, like, is this okay? And just asking for permission. Are you up for praying right now? Can we do that together? And then just going before God together. And oftentimes I find myself like, what do I pray? I'm confused. I don't know why God let this happen. God, I don't know what I'm asking you to do right now. And sometimes that prayer is just like affirming, God, I know you're here. I know you're good. That hasn't changed because this happened, but we need your help because we feel lost and helpless. So come love us, come surround us, come help this family, come help me, just a desperate prayer.
That's really good. And I feel like all the things that you just said, first of all, you're very good at, but are so true, and also kind of combat that thing that people feel like they need to do, which is have all the answers. And I think people go, they either show up and don't know what else to say, so they just say weird things in the moment that are trying to answer questions. Or it's what prevents them from going to be there with the people in the first place because they think, well, I don't know what to say. And part of the deal is, no, just show up. That's huge. And then all the stuff that you just said about giving permission, going to God together, like that's coming alongside. You're not setting yourself up as the answer man and I need to have all this figured out before I can extend care to you. And I think that's just such a powerful posturing of how to approach those things.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, showing up and just, depending on how close you are, if you're in that circle, that inner circle, if you're their life group leader, if you're one of their closest friends, if you're a family member, and you already have that permission to just show up and be with them until it feels like it's no longer helpful. And, excuse yourself kindly and politely. If you're not sure, if you're one of those people, you can express a desire to see them. Hey, I'd love to come see you. If it's helpful, are you up for that? And just, they can say, yep, I'm ready, or nope, not yet. Maybe next week, maybe in a few days, whatever it might be. But I do think just being with people in their grief is huge. And I've heard people say that like in the first few days and weeks, it's actually, there's a flood of people, and then all of a sudden there's this void. Like, I don't know if it's like a month out or whatever it is, but there's just eerie loneliness that comes at that point because all the initial attention fades. And so just, if you know someone that's gone through grief maybe a month or two ago or a few months ago, it might be a good person to go be with.
Great advice. Great advice. Thanks for sharing it, John.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's good to process that together.
Yeah.
So your sermon, man, Jesus makes this statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And it is a powerful and yet troubling, I don't know if that's the right word. It's you can't water that one down. We try and make it into, other people try to make it into other things, but you can't get away from that truth claim that he made. And your big idea was that because Jesus is the way, you can find your way home. And that's really good news. Not just to the initial disciples he was speaking to, but to all of us who long to be home with God. Then you talked about 3 myths that Jesus shatters. These are the myths. You can get to God through any religion. You create your own truth, or you are arrogant to believe that Jesus is the only way. And that Jesus in that statement shatters all 3 of those. And I know there's people listening. They heard you on Sunday. They're listening now who are still kind of wrestling through this, because maybe they came in Sunday feeling like, yeah, I think I can, I can be Christian, but my best friend can be Buddhist, and my other friend can be spiritual, and the other friend, and we're all kind of going to the same place, talking to the same God. What have you? How else can you help us? I mean, your sermon was awesome, but like, how else can you help us get our heads around the fact that all religions aren't the same? Yeah. And they're not all pointing to the same God.
Yeah, and it's incredible to me that this is the prevailing thought right now. I really believe that it is, that most people, if asked, would just say, all religions are the same. They're pointing to the same God. Maybe they're different. They have different aspects of the truth, but there's this one God that they all point to, so it doesn't matter, which way you go. And I remember I was in New York City. It was a couple decades ago now. It was a while ago, but I was there to actually sing at a wedding. So I used to be in a bit of a boy band back in the day.
Oh, I love this podcast. If you can even believe that. I love it.
And so and it was by actually.
Was it NSYNC or Backstreet Boys? Which one was it?
You don't. I'm not even gonna say the name, but there was four of us. It was four guys. Somebody had literally heard one of our recordings on their college campus, walked by somebody's dorm room, heard our album playing, and said, "Who is that? I want them to sing at my wedding." So,
oh my goodness!
And it turns out to be this very wealthy family. This has nothing to do with the story, but I'm giving you a very wealthy family in New York City. We were flown there with a significant other. We were picked up in a limousine. I mean, it was the whole deal.
I need our listeners today. Someone needs to verify that this happened.
It happened.
I'm calling shenanigans. No. I want some evidence. If anyone was at this wedding, please let me know.
Listen, it was at a mansion on the Hudson River. It was spectacular. Wow. Anyway, I got a moment alone with the bride and groom, whom I did not know very well going into this. They had just hired us to come in and do this.
And you weren't a pastor at this point?
No.
Okay, no. I just want to clarify. This was you're in college?
Yeah, this was last year of college, pre-pastor days. Okay. So the husband was Jewish, the wife was Catholic, and the wedding ceremony was very Jewish, so it had all the kind of Jewish rituals. It was officiated, oddly enough, by a Presbyterian minister. And then me and my guys from an evangelical college came to this Jewish wedding officiated by a Presbyterian minister with a Catholic girl and sang Jesus songs.
Wow.
So it was just this weird, conglomerate. And I remember getting a moment of downtime with the bride and groom alone and listening to their story a little bit. And eventually we started talking about spiritual things a little bit and their different paths and expressions of faith or whatever. And that neither of them was really practicing their religion much, but, on a holiday, they might go to a synagogue one time and a Catholic church the next time or whatever. And I asked them a question that turned out to be whatever. I said, "Do you ever wonder which one is right?" And simultaneously, they both said no. In other words, they've never wondered that.
Wow.
And the question had never occurred to them. And then the husband said what I think is the key phrase. He said, both religions are saying pretty much the same thing, aren't they? And I would submit to you that no other time for the past 2,000 years have people just generally assumed that all the religions are saying the same thing. This is a new concept, a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because the religions are wildly different.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's been helpful to me in just myself and then personally just dealing with people on this issue that all religions are the same, it's an old metaphor that has been used a lot about blind men and an elephant. So these blind men wander up upon this elephant and they are each describing the elephant. And so the blind man that's got a hold of the snake says, well, the elephant is this long, flexible creature like a snake, and he's holding the tail.
Oh, got you.
Sorry, I said snake. He's holding the tail of the elephant, and he's describing it like a snake. Mm-hmm. The other blind man has his arms wrapped around the leg of the elephant. He say, no, it's not like a snake. It's like the trunk of a tree.
Oh, okay.
And then another one that's, holding the side of the elephant is saying, no, it's not like a snake or it's not like a trunk of a tree. It's like large and flat like a wall, And so the point that people make is they say, well, this is like our approach to God, that God is the elephant. He's big and mysterious. And we are small and clueless. And all of the religions are like these blind people that are trying to describe the elephant, but they're each describing it their own way. And so the Hindu has the tail and the Jew has the leg and the Muslim has the side of it and the atheist has that, whatever. And everybody's partly right and everybody's partly wrong is the idea, and that each blind man can only feel part of the elephant, and none of them can envision the entire elephant, and that way. And so the person saying this is saying, listen, it's arrogant to think that Christianity, for example, has the only description of the truth. The truth is you just have part of it, just like the Muslims and the Hindus and and the truth is that this is an elephant that we're all grabbing hold of different parts of. And the problem with that, and here's the clarifying thing for me, the problem with that, number one, is the person who's saying, no, there's an elephant, is actually claiming absolute truth. So they're doing the very thing they're cautioning everybody else against, where they're saying, listen, no, Christianity, you can't claim absolute truth. You only have a piece of the puzzle. This person is basically saying, but I'm omnipotent because I can see the whole elephant and I can see all the error of your little religious ways. And actually, that person is quite arrogant. They're becoming the very thing they're accusing everyone else of being, by claiming that they are the only one that has the full picture of the truth of these religions. Because
that's a truth claim in and of itself, is to say it's actually an entire elephant, not only the portion that you're describing.
Exactly. Okay, exactly. So it backfires a little bit on the person who's trying to argue that point. But I want to push it one moment further. What we're really dealing with, though, with the elephant is, and I would say to the person, but what if the elephant spoke? What if the elephant revealed itself? What if the elephant said, gentlemen, I realize that you're blind, but let me introduce myself. Here's what I'm like. Here's the whole of me. It's not arrogant at that point then to sit at the feet of the elephant and let it define itself.
Right.
And what I would press back and say, listen, the elephant spoke. God spoke. God revealed himself. We're not just groping blindly at straws. God has shown himself to us in the Bible, in Christianity. And so I think that's one of the metaphors that has really helped me to go, now all religions aren't exactly the same. We don't have all a little piece of it because God told us, he revealed himself to us.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
Yeah.
I think that frames the tension and the contradiction of that. What's interesting, when I speak to people who lean more agnostic, so they're not atheists saying I don't believe in a God at all. I believe that there could be and maybe probably is a higher power. We just can't know that higher power. And so they might also say, all religions are equally valid because of that, or they might say all major religions are wrong, but it is its own faith system, belief system. Yes. Agnosticism is its own, saying that God is unknowable. We can't know, and so it's not worth trying. That's a belief system.
Yeah, they're making a truth claim.
Yes. Yeah, they then are saying then all the other religions can't be true because those religions are saying, no, God is knowable and he is this way.
Yeah. So
it's been helpful to me to realize that as that has become more popular, it's also, it's not an out. It's not like, hey, I don't want to decide. So you're deciding. It's just another way to describe it's what you believe is true about the nature of God.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a non-belief. It's actually a belief that you have to apply the same scrutiny to that you're applying to all the other belief systems. And so you have to begin to question the validity of agnosticism, just like you're questioning the validity of Christianity, and because you're basing that belief on some evidence or lack of evidence. And I think what people often think is, I can apply scrutiny to everyone else's belief, but I don't have to apply it to mine, or I don't have to apply. If I think of a thing like, agnosticism, then that's just a kind of an out, like you said. It's an out to say I don't have to believe in any of those things, when in fact that itself is a belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as people listen to this and process both for themselves, some people are still wrestling through whether they believe Christianity is true or not, whether they believe it can be true, along with other things, or they're in conversation with other people. I just hope that's helpful for them to think through. You gave us a pretty heavy next step, I'd say. Define your posture towards Jesus right now. Is it fist clenched in defiance and anger? Is it arms crossed with doubt and being dismissive? Or is it knees bowed in belief, humility, and at home with Christ? And obviously encouraging us that if Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, that we want to believe him. We want to humbly come and find our way home through him. But if I'm going to be real with my lead pastor, doubt's been part of my faith journey from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's something that in some ways feels like a plague or a curse that's just been part of the deal for me.
Yeah.
What do you say to the doubters? Is if Jesus is the truth, is there room for doubt? And if yes, which I'm hoping you say, how do we fight doubt?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, we've talked about the spiritual disciplines of solitude and fellowship over the weeks here and how valuable those are. I feel like there's a spiritual discipline in learning to fight doubt.
That's good.
So yeah, is there room for it? And what do you do to fight it?
So I can relate. I'm a fellow skeptic. A lot of people know, that's part of my story too, is really wrestling through I was a philosophy major in college. And so, I was given frameworks to kind of wrestle through, what do you believe? Why is it valid? That sort of thing. So I'm a fellow skeptic. I think there are compelling stories of doubt all through the Bible. And so, yes, I do think that it actually is part of faith. It's not anti-faith. It's actually part of our faith.
Yeah.
To be able to doubt well. And some of the greatest
comforting to hear.
Some of the greatest saints doubted. Abraham laughed at God when he promised that they were going to have their 100-year-old selves were going to have a baby. Moses said, "Hey, you got the wrong guy." He doubted that they could do it. I've read the books from Billy Graham, Mother Teresa. I mean, even thinking more modern people who had tremendous doubts all through their walks with God. John the Baptist is one of, I think, the more interesting doubters in the Gospels, in that, John the Baptist, who gave his life for Jesus, was about to be beheaded, sends word and goes, "Are you the one, or should we expect another?" Like he threw it out there to Jesus.
And you think about that after baptizing him and seeing the Holy Spirit
the whole
descend
deal
upon him and hearing God's voice from heaven, he's still saying, "Are you really the guy?"
He had the best shot of any of us to believe it. And then Thomas, Thomas is the most famous probably doubter in the Bible. And I think it's important to recognize that doubt is different than unbelief.
Yes.
Those are two different things. And so doubt just means being in two minds. And so it's like you haven't come down firmly on one side. You're in limbo. You're examining, you're thinking, you're weighing, two sides of an issue. And, I think it's kind of the state of believing and disbelieving at the same time. There's this thing. And the father of the epileptic boy in the Gospels who just says, "I believe, help my unbelief," I think is like the perfect cry of doubt. Captures what so many of us feel of like, yes, I believe, help all those places where I don't.
Yes.
And I think that's just one of the ways that the Scriptures is very helpful to us.
Yeah.
I like to think about it like this. I don't know if you remember the P90X fitness craze, but that was a big thing. I know people still do it, but that whole thing was built on this idea of muscle confusion. So the idea, if you want your muscles to get stronger, they get stronger when they're appropriately stressed, and that's a good thing. Tension and resistance and all that. P90X came in and said, if you add variables to that, it's even going to make your muscles stronger. So things like do different exercise, do longer sets, have less time of recovery in between sets, and that sort of thing. I know I'm talking, we're both bodybuilders here.
I think 90 was for 90 minutes. I was more into the P1X. The 1 minute muscle confusion of like getting out of bed.
Just leave it at confusion.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, my muscles feel really confused.
Yeah, let's leave the muscles out of this.
Let's go.
But the idea of that confusion makes the muscle stronger when you can add variables in, and I think faith is like a muscle in that way. That it's stronger when it's weathered tension and stress and resistance and even confusion at times, which I think helps us to doubt well. And you look at I love the story of Thomas. He's called Doubting Thomas. I would like to relabel him Courageous Thomas or Bold Thomas, just because I think that doubting gets a bad rap, because I think it was such a critical part of his faith. But, the night of the resurrection, in my message, I talk about in John 14, when Thomas is the one who asks Jesus the question that leads to the statement, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life," where Jesus says, "You know where I'm going, right?" And he's like, "No. We don't know.
Tell us.
And tell us where we're and how to get there."
Yeah.
And Jesus says, "Well, I'm the way, the truth, and the life." This is now a few chapters later, the day of the resurrection, and Thomas is not with the disciples. The 11 disciples have regathered the night of Jesus' resurrection, and Thomas isn't with them. And it's only speculation, but I think he felt burned. I think he felt betrayed. I think he was purposely staying away. I think we have to remember what these guys gave up to follow Jesus. And I think Thomas was processing the death of a dream, of just going, I gave my whole life for this, and he abandoned us like this. And the disciples, Jesus appears to them, Thomas isn't there. They tell Thomas, Jesus appeared to us, and he goes, unless I see the marks in his hands, I'm not believing that. And so he had doubts, right? And I think some people even listening to this can relate to that. They're like, I went out on a limb for Jesus, and I gave my life to him, and guess what? My marriage failed. And guess what? I lost my mom. Guess what? Cancer struck. It didn't prevent. And there's this like betrayal, and I feel like those are the moments when doubt can creep in. Yep. And I think we just have a lot to learn from Thomas. He waited 7 days, so he lived with his doubt for a week. Jesus didn't appear to him for another week. But then when we meet him next, now he is in the room with the disciples.
Yeah.
And I think there's just a great lesson there for us that when we're in doubting mode, we have to choose conversation over isolation. That he returned to the disciples and I think processed with them. So he's with the group again. And I think our doubts get worked out with people.
Yeah.
And they grow in isolation. They're like those dark things that grow in the darkness. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are afraid because they're like, I'm not sure I can express my doubt. And I just want people to know that's a safe place to, that the church, that their life group, whatever, is a safe place to wrestle with doubt. But I think another thing that Thomas did was he chose investigation over pretending. So I think what a lot of people do in their doubt is they just go, well, I just have to fake this. I don't necessarily believe it's true anymore, but I'm going to go on and fake it. And I think when Jesus came and says, okay, put your finger in the wounds. Here you go. And he took that step of investigation. He's like, I'm going to figure out if this is real or not. And he didn't fake it. He didn't pretend. He responded to Jesus when Jesus said, go ahead and check it out. And I think that's such a great lesson for us because investigate.
Yes.
Don't just go, well, I guess I just have to fake it till I make it. No. Look into it.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a position where you can really figure out if this is true or not.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Because we have such a tendency to shut down.
Right.
In doubt. I mean, you said pretend, outwardly pretend like we still believe and have no questions or doubts, or but then inwardly we can stop even looking for God to reveal himself and solidify, strengthen our faith.
Yep. Yeah. And we already touched on this before, but I think it's so important when we have doubts to doubt our doubts. And just kind of like what we said with agnostics and people who may not apply that same scrutiny to their own beliefs, the same is true with our doubts. I feel like we often give doubts a courtesy that we don't give our beliefs.
Wow.
We give them kind of a free pass. And we say, well, and the truth is our doubts usually don't offer a better solution than what we're believing. They just nag at those beliefs. And so if we were really to turn our attention and say, all right, it's not a doubt, it's actually a belief. So I don't look at it as faith versus doubt. I look at it as faith in God versus faith in something else. My doubt is actually faith in something else.
Yep.
So I'm either having faith in myself, my own ideas. I'm having faith in, somebody says, well, I don't believe that God exists. Well, you have faith in something else then. Because we're all here, so how do we get here? What are you putting your faith in terms of the explanation for all of this? And so I think we have to turn that scrutiny onto our own doubts.
Yeah.
And I love this, and I know we're moving toward the end here. This is also some of the stuff I didn't get to talk about in my sermon.
Yeah.
So we normally do a cutting room floor thing, and this is
I want to hear about it.
This is part of it. But Jesus gives the Great Commission in Matthew 28. It says, "Go into all the world," and he brings his followers to the mountain of ascension where he's going to go back to his Father. And it says, and I love this, they worshiped him, but some of them still doubted. And this is they'd seen the whole thing, the resurrection, everything, and some of them still doubted. And I just think this happens every week in church. Some are worshiping and some are still doubting, and that's okay. I think there's going to be this ebb and flow for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And if you look in that case, what Jesus does, he looks at those people who are worshiping, doubting people, the worshiping, doubting crowd, and he says, go into all the world. You doubters, go, risk your lives for me, change your world for me. And I believe Jesus is assuming that as you go, part of that is that your doubts get healed in the going.
Wow.
And that part of being on Jesus' team is going, that this thing is helping me to get square with who he is, who I am, and that the doubters are included in the mission too. And I just love that
Praise
about
the Lord.
Jesus.
I love that too.
Yeah.
In one of John's letters, he says, "Have mercy on those who doubt." And I love that because to me, what you're saying is Jesus has mercy on those who doubt.
He does,
and wants to build them up and heal their doubt along the way. Not that this side of heaven it may ever be completely gone, but that he's going to care for us, welcome us, help us in our doubts, and that we get to do that for others as the body. We get to have mercy on those around us and create safe spaces, like you said, where it's okay to say, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to believe this with my whole heart today, that God is good, or that God is present, or that Jesus, saved me," or whatever it might be. Like, put words to it and let the people around you pray for you, encourage you.
Yeah, so good.
That's really good.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember that disciples of Jesus are not people who never doubt. Disciples of Jesus doubt and they worship. Disciples of Jesus doubt and they serve. Disciples, just like you said, disciples of Jesus doubt and they help each other and they show mercy to each other, even in their doubts. And I think that image right there is the image that Christ would want us to carry.
It's good. Love that, man. I love this conversation that we've been able to have. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun to do this over the course of this whole series. And I hope for those who are listening, if this is your first time joining us, feel free to go back and catch the earlier episodes. Hopefully they'd be an encouragement to you. And we'd love for you to subscribe to this so that when we're going to take a little break, but when we pick it back up, that you get notified and you can join us again at that time. So thanks for being part of the conversation. If it was helpful for you, feel free to share it with somebody else that you think would be encouraged by it. We'd love for them to hear it too. If you're interested in more information about Grace Church here in Erie, PA, head to whoisgrace.com, find out more about us. If you want to pick up the I Am Jesus daily devotional, even just pick it up for this last week, go to whoisgrace.com/I Am Jesus. Check that out. And until we see you in the future, keep following Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life.